What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Two Knicks Chicks. Thank you for joining us today. I'm your girl, Lady and the Chef, joined by my co host and mom.
Deeper 21. Good evening.
How you
What's
doing
up?
today? Whichever one. How you
Yeah,
doing?
I'm okay. I'm feeling better. I was under the weather. What was that, Tuesday? So we couldn't really dive into that game from Monday, the Clippers game. So I'm gonna dive into that just briefly. Sorry we couldn't do it. I was under the weather, but I definitely want to just tap into that. But otherwise, okay. What about yourself?
I'm good. I wish I was one of those people that have Fridays off so I could be like, it's my Friday. But I'm also good because the Knicks won. So we're at two in a row for this week's games, which I'm super pumped about. Because again, we did our game analysis, our take on this week's games, and I think we both said it'd be nice if they go and win all three. And I know for me, I said at least I'll take two and one. But originally, my original answer on our podcast and back on Dope Soul Sports Talk on Monday, I said the Knicks take all three. So I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good that the Knicks had a nice win yesterday against the San Antonio Spurs.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, I think, that Monday's win was definitely a confidence booster. It helps and it helps. So, let's hope it carries over. Like we know Sunday's an early game, but they got a few days to practice and get some shots in and things like that. And I don't see why we shouldn't win that game. I'm confident, Knicks, all three.
Agreed. And we both know Charlotte is a team that the Knicks should be beating. They're a beatable team. So to me, the Knicks should definitely take that win, whether it's an early game or a late game. Keep the momentum. It's been what I've been saying so far this week is keep the momentum so we can get that W. But
Yeah.
going into so far with yesterday's game, the New York Knicks beat the San Antonio Spurs 126 to 105. It was a nice win. The Knicks are now 4-4. Um, some takes from that game. The Knicks had great ball movement. Um, we didn't settle for the threes.
Yes.
The Knicks made smarter decisions with the ball and without the ball because I thought the defense was really good as well. And the Knicks didn't settle in for the three on a lot of the fast break points. Instead of kicking it out to the guys that was standing in the corner, we fed our big men and we went for the easy dunk or the layup. So I applaud them for that, for not settling for a three and actually taking the ball in and getting the easy basket. And I think Huey, is his name? Herbert, who was commentating the game.
Oh no, her
Herb. he
you messed me up. Hubie
I was right the first time. Yeah, Hubie. Hubie, he said it. He said, go for the easy basket. And the Knicks was doing that, like while they were in transition in the play.
and shout out to Hubie. He's 90 years old. You
Yeah,
know
I
that,
know.
right?
I
Yeah,
know.
I didn't know he was that
And
old,
still
or
kicking.
rather that young. Hey, he's
And
still
still
killing the
and still
game.
sound great. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Him and Clyde do a really good job. And Mike Breen, because he's getting up there too. And they do a great job calling the games.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
shout out to Monica McNutt holding it down on MSG,
Oh
representing
yeah.
the women. And it's just great because I love her up there with Wally and Alan Hahn, just commentating the game of basketball and on ESPN radio also.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but I think I want to start off by asking you, do you feel the Knicks are starting to gel and connect the dots after these two
Um,
wins this week?
they are, but you know what? Before I answer that, I just want to give my takeaway from the game. Um, you know, because it was that game was just incredible. That was to me, by far. And I know we still got a lot of games left in us, but shout out to Mitch and Hart.
Yeah,
They our bigs, really took care of Wemby. They put a body on him.
Yeah.
And they went straight at him. They didn't let him, get comfortable. Um, Defensively, they held him in check for the most part. So shout out to them. Combined they scored 21 points and 15 rebounds. So, that's huge, for
When you
them.
say Hart, are you saying
Heartless
Josh Hart or Hart? And
no,
okay,
I
because I'm
heart, yeah.
like, yeah,
No, no,
okay,
no, yeah. Um, but anyway, yeah, I
Optimists. Okay.
know, yeah, the bigs, but they did, they held, Wemby, um, and that was an awesome game for them. So,
But do you think that that was also part of Wemby coming to New York, coming to the Garden? It's a different kind of crowd. And the crowd was actually cheering for him because of how talented he is and his height, and people are so amazed by his skill set and talent. But do you think that it's coming to the Garden? It's not an easy place to play, and the bright lights and the crowd being the way that us New Yorkers are. Do you think that that was a factor in him not having a great game against the Knicks?
partly, and age also. You can, because he's so young, and he's gonna get there,
Yeah.
and when he do, he's gonna be a force to be reckoned with. So I think it was just a combination, and also like they, his guys, the offense sort of strayed away from him.
Yeah.
They didn't feed him the ball as much. So I guess it's a combination of, the garden, the atmosphere, our bigs, and how we played them, age. So a lot of that played a factor in it. This is something, again, I always say it's a learning tool for, no matter if it's the opponent or whatever, our team. That's why you watch film. These are all learning tools, and he's gonna get better. The
Mhm.
sky's a limit for him. So, um, but again, shout out to our big guys.
Yeah, agreed. Mitchell Robinson, and actually, it was Randall who did a better job on the rebounding with Mitchell Robinson, but Hartenstein did a good job on the defensive end and also just giving us points in general.
Yeah.
But um, Mitchell Robinson had 12 rebounds. Julius Randle had 16 boards. So them two
Hmm.
combined, they really was the two that really, snatched us some rebounds that was much needed. Because Hartenstein, he only had 3 rebounds, but he did have 13 points. Um, but yeah, the Knicks overall had what, 5 guys in double figures.
Yeah.
Quentin Grimes only had 8 points, 3 assists. We had
Hmm.
Jalen Brunson had 25.6 assists. He had 2 rebounds. Mitchell Robinson had 8 points. He had 12 rebounds, 1 assist. Julius Randle had 16 rebounds, 5 assists, and 23 points. And then you had RJ Barrett, who also had a nice game with 24 points, 6 assists, and 2 rebounds. Um, and Emmanuel quickly had 19 points, 5 assists. And then you had DiVincenzo and Josh Hart both had really quiet games. They didn't really do much for us in that
Hmm.
game. But
Yeah.
and I also noticed DiVincenzo did play, I think, a minute or two more than Grimes. But overall,
Hmm.
I thought that was also a great game because you had scoring from multiple guys, and it wasn't just scoring from Randall, Brunson, RJ. You
Yeah.
had
Yeah.
Quickly scoring, giving you points. You had Hartenstein giving you a nice amount of points. So, and I think the keys were because of the ball movement. The Knicks didn't settle and they were moving the ball around, which really helped them out a lot. And they
Yeah.
spaced the floor well. And, that's something that we constantly reiterate as far as spacing the floor. And you see, when the Knicks move the ball, they're successful.
Yeah. 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 And also, like I mentioned in our pre, you know, put a body on him and on Wembyana, Yama, Victor. Put a body on him and make him take those tough shots. Um, don't let him again get comfortable. And that's just what they did. You took him out of his game. Was that a factor? And outside of him not getting the touches and the offense running through him as much, did that play a factor in the loss? Maybe, you
Right.
know. Um, but it's how it goes. It's a learning tool for
Yeah, I agree. I'm curious how it's going to go when we go to San Antonio and play them again, because I'm sure he's going to have a better game, and he's going to be a bit more prepared, and then he'll be at home, so I don't
him.
think that he'll be as quiet, unless the Knicks continue to do what they did yesterday, and then we see, okay, but at the end of the day, he's still a great player. He's going to continue to get better and grow as a player. um Randall did have a really good game this past week. um do you think we're going to get consistency for the most part from Randall, like for the rest of the season, and we're gonna get this Randall? Like, do you feel like Randall's locked in now? And again, I understand that players may have those one or two games here and there
Mhm.
with, those handful of games where you're just gonna be off. But do you think that Randall's like turned the leaf and now he's locked in and ready?
I think so because you gotta remember, Randall, he had the surgery. In those first few games, he was playing like kinda hurt and sore. They did come out and said, well, he still was playing through the pain. I think that's behind him. He had that breakout game, and I think going forward, long as you could keep that attitude in check, like I said, we need him. He's a vital, they're like the three-headed monster, Randall, Barrett, and Brunson. So, I think going forward, we can see more of the old Randall, that's going to give us whether it's the 30 points and, the 15, 12 rebounds, the
Hmm.
defensive effort, so I think, we will see the consistency with Randall. And that's my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Randall definitely, I see him taking the steps and leaps like he gave us last season. I
Yeah.
know there's been talks of people saying Randall has a track record of one season he's good, the next season he's not. The next season after that, he's back good, and the vice versa, the season after that, he's not. I don't think that this is going to be a season where he's not. I think Randall is not going to be having those seasons where he plateaus and doesn't do well. I think that this is a season where Randall for himself sees what he was capable of doing last year. And I think that he's going to be able to carry that over into this year. And if not, be better. That's the goal, to get better. So I think that he'll be able to do that. And I think if, like you said, I agree. If he checks his attitude, I think that Randall is going to be a huge asset. We already know the Knicks need Randall at the end of the day. So
Yeah.
I think if Randall stays consistent and, gives us the rebounds, the scoring, and I think it's also too, one thing that we haven't really gotten on with him is it's not even so much just the points, it's the hustle plays, like getting back on the defense because he may have gotten upset about something. So now he's kind of going back on defense, or he didn't. And I saw it once or twice in yesterday's game where
Yeah, I saw it
he
too.
was guarding guys, and it wasn't so much that he looked like he got upset about something, but it was like the defense was a bit lackluster. And I don't know if that was him being tired, because I noticed with Randall sometimes he looks tired and he's huffing and puffing. Like Mitch last season, me and you used to say how he would be grabbing them shorts when
Yeah.
them free throw, breaks where Mitch would be huffing and puffing. He looked tired. And I get it. If you're playing, almost 40 minutes a game, that's a lot. You going back and forth. Sometimes there's no timeouts back to back, and things of that nature. But I don't know if with Randall, is it that sometimes he's tired, because I notice he'll do a speed walk back up the court instead of a light jog or a trot back up. It's more of like a quick speed walk, and he looks like he's trying to catch his breath. And then other
Mhm.
times, I don't think it's that. I think it's, I just didn't put enough effort into that defensive play.
Well, a part of that's conditioning. And I'm quite sure that's something Mitch worked on. Because like you said, last season he was always, holding his shorts. And I have yet to see that. So that's part of conditioning. That's something, I guess, Randall will and it'll probably come because it's a long season. So I see, he can, definitely work on that. And again, that's like the consistency, what you was talking about. But I don't. That's definitely not going to hold us back.
Yeah.
Um, if he's again stays consistent, the hustle, you got to work on his hustle play. Sometimes he can get lazy on it, on a defensive effort, but I don't see that being a major setback for him. And,
Yeah.
and you could say the same thing for RJ. Last year he ran into a wall in the finals. So what you could spin that question on RJ. Although he's playing great for us, but it happened to him last year. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
so what's your take on RJ? He's playing great. Do you think he can keep it up? You know?
I do. I do because I think, how you mentioned early on, FIBA helped RJ. And I
Hmm.
think him playing FIBA and playing against these other teams gave him more of a confidence booster. And at the same time, he was able to work on his game.
Yeah.
So he was able to work on moves playing throughout the FIBA tournament, at the same time conditioning himself throughout these games. So I think that was good that RJ actually played in FIBA, whether he played for Canada or USA. I think something like that was I encourage that for him because I truly believe that helped RJ out. A lot of times, his 3-point shot was awful. His mid-range shot was awful. He was missing layups. So I see where he's taken strides and his game seems to have progressed. And I
Hmm.
see a lot of improvement. I don't see RJ, hitting a wall and then starting to stink up the place. I truly see him staying, pretty steady throughout the season. And, I guess it's more like maybe on the defensive end, yeah, I want to see him, continue to effort and not, but I don't really see him too much get too like lackadaisical and lazy on the defensive end. For the most part, he's pretty
Hmm.
good. I think with RJ, it's more of the offense, and I think just being able to like if you get those fast break in the lane and you get the pass, you need to make that either it's a dunk or a layup, you need to make it.
Yeah.
You can't, especially if it's only one guy on you and you out beating him, you shouldn't be missing any layups or an easy dunk. Like you should be
Hmm.
making points like that. So I think with him, he'll be okay. I don't really see that. And as far as Randall, I think Randall will be okay too because Randall now should be watching film. He said he never watched film before. So if
Yeah.
you're watching a film, you should be I hope he's looking at himself when he keeps stopping his dribble and making those stupid passes while he's in the air because he did that a few times last night, and I'm like, here he goes.
I wonder has his stance changed? Like, does he watch film now? Um,
I would hope so. You get paid a lot of money. So if Randall's not watching film, here's my thing with that though. So where were you going when the whole team was watching film?
yeah, that's the $1 million question.
Do you
Yeah, yeah,
own a franchise of restaurants that you had to go handle? Like, where were you, or are you taking a nap when the whole team is rewatching film? You just showing up to practice? Because that's the $1 million question. I wish that would have been asked to him when he was on that podcast episode. I'm a take away from college, but in the NBA, where are you physically when the team is rewatching film?
yeah, yeah.
Just trying to
Well,
I'm just trying to make it make some sense.
yeah. Well, let's hope that's change. And he does watch film. Going forward. You know,
I hope so. I really do. But yeah, the Knicks, I thought overall yesterday's game against the Spurs was a solid win. And you know why it was also a great win? Because the Knicks held on to the lead. Even
Yeah.
though San Antonio cut it down at one point to like 14 or 12 points in
14.
the fourth quarter,
Mm-hmm.
but the Knicks didn't let it get down underneath double digits. They didn't let it get down where they was only up by 6 or 8 points, which is typical of the Knicks. So I applaud them for keeping the
Yeah.
lead,
Yep.
and they didn't get sloppy at the end of the game. It was still high pace as if it was the first half of the game.
Yeah.
So
No,
they
no
kept
defensive collapse.
right, exactly.
We
Exactly.
know.
I mean, I guess Tibbs still feels like he still has to play the starters, because at one point, San Antonio, they were like starting to knock down threes. They cut that lead down real quick. But I think if the Knicks continue to do that, because you got to be prepared for Golden State, you got to be prepared for Denver. You know what I mean? You got to be prepared for these other teams because they're not going to play around.
No, they're not. And we, to start the season, we had one of the toughest schedules.
Yeah,
So, you
which I
know,
think helped.
of course, yeah, yeah. And we went 4 for 4. So I mean, that's not bad. There was a few of those, we should have won, but you can't cry with spilt milk. Again, you
Mhm.
just learn from it. But this sort of, prepares you for when you go out west, when that west trip, it
Right.
this helps you. Or when you play east, because you will be meeting, your Cleveland. I don't know if they meet Cleveland. I think they do. I gotta check the thing. But
Well, they
you
have
got
to.
Philly. You got to go
Mhm.
through Philly, Boston, Orlando. These are people, teams that you're gonna meet and you haven't thus far. So yeah, it's all just like
And
a
even
momentum
Brooklyn,
build.
they
Yeah,
need to be able
yeah,
to beat Brooklyn because I
yeah.
feel like when a Knicks play Brooklyn, you'll have like Randall seems to go hard and does well, and you'll get maybe another guy or two But I'm like collectively, the Knicks to me, like you playing on the same level as Brooklyn. Why? Just beat them.
Yeah, well,
I mean,
Brooklyn got
Mikal
some.
Bridges is a great player. Too bad the Knicks couldn't get him. Because honestly, I would trade Randall for Mikal Bridges easy.
uh,
Not thinking twice.
I don't know. I mean, Randall's grown on me. These last few games.
Nah.
Um,
You
he's
gotta
grown
realize
on me.
Mikal Bridges is gonna give you the consistent scoring. And he's not injury prone. Not saying Randall is, but which I'm saying more so that's a plus, like with Randall. But I think on a night in game out basis, this guy's he's gonna be that help that Brunson needs. That's the
Yeah,
kind of guy that we need.
I'm gonna give Randall a few more games before I, uh, make my final.
I'm not giving up on Randall. What I'm saying though is that if I was part of the front office and the decision making, I would look to bring in somebody who can really, because I think my issue with Randall is that you don't know what you're gonna get. You don't know who you're gonna get on certain games. It's like
I don't know. I think the consistency is there. Like I mentioned, he was playing hurt. Um, so maybe this that page turn or whatever you want to call it. Where he can play consistently. So,
mhm.
and he's admitted it that and they admitted he was playing, on hurt, with some pain and soreness. So, I mean, it seems like it's over. So, I think we'll see a turnaround with them.
I hope
So,
so. I'm looking forward to that because my thing is like, okay, cool. He was playing like that, but
hmm
um my biggest thing is that I'm all for guys giving us a great regular season. I just don't need guys to disappear in the playoffs. That was our issue last year.
oh, for sure. I'm
Quickly
not disagreeing.
disappeared.
Yeah.
Randall disappeared,
Who you said Randall? Who else?
and quickly.
Oh. Yeah, and then RJ, he went 1 for 9 at one point. I think it was in game six.
But
I mean,
yeah,
he
but
showed up, but
he was the only one besides Brunson who was actually like taking it to the hole and keeping us in the
yeah,
game.
yeah, yeah, he
He did
was,
have
yeah.
those one or two crappy games, but he was doing more than Quickly and Randall
Oh yeah,
because
yeah,
you couldn't find those two guys. And
yeah.
I tell people all the time when I say that, I mean Randall pre ankle injury.
yeah,
This is before he
yeah.
hurt his ankle. He
Hmm.
wasn't showing up. It wasn't like, oh, dag, he was off. It was like, no, he just wasn't showing up. And then collectively, as a whole, the Knicks team just couldn't knock down a basket.
Oh yeah, well, I agree, yeah. And definitely we're gonna need quickly could to stay consistent because he's like the first off the bench. Which is phenomenal. We just need for him to again stay consistent.
Yeah.
Um, Josh Hart, I need more consistency from him. He's like one of the first guys off the bench too. He's his game is up and down. He give you 7 rebounds one game, and yesterday they have 5, but like you mentioned, only 3 points. So we need that production to go up. Um, and that I see what you mean by we don't have a bench. I mean,
But that's my point with Josh Hart. Like, he likes to pass the ball a lot. And I'm all for being selfless and passing, but I think he overpasses. I
yeah,
think Josh Hart is more comfortable grabbing you a couple of boards, getting you a couple of rebounds. Boards and rebounds are the same thing, excuse me, but getting you some rebounds. I think he's comfortable passing the ball to other guys and setting
hmm,
them up so that they can shoot that shot and he could get his assist. He's comfortable diving after loose balls. And if he had to dive in a crowd and end up in the third to fifth row or on Spike Lee's lap, he's
so,
comfortable with that. But I think if it comes down to can we get 10 to 12 points on a consistent basis for the most part from Josh Hart, we're not going to get that. And I feel like I've come to that conclusion. That's just not going to happen. With him, it's going to be those sprinkle of games here and there. He's going to drop maybe 10 to 14 points. And, he'll have maybe 5 to 8, 5 to 10 rebounds. But that the points factor is not going to really be a major factor in his game. It's Josh Hart is more of like and I can't even compare him to like a Lance Stevenson because Lance Stevenson scored, but he's like
yeah,
that scrappy player that's just gonna, he's just gonna do the other intangibles. He's not gonna give us points, and that's a shame because the Knicks gave him that contract, and I'm like, but for what? Yeah, he brought the energy, and it's not to say that his energy can't turn back up towards the second half of the season or the playoffs, but honestly, we need guys who could also give us points.
yeah. That's
We
that's
also need
key.
points.
Yeah,
And, Grimes is another one.
you know,
Not holding my breath.
it's like beating a dead horse, man. When it comes to Grimes, man, this guy got it. I'm gonna stay on him until he become consistent because
Yeah, like how we did with RJ. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I agree because especially if you're starting,
yes, you're a
I think,
starter.
but see, the problem is the Knicks don't really have a guy who we can be like, okay, Grimes could sit on the bench and come off the bench rather, and this guy would be starting in his place. We don't have nobody. So Tibbs has no choice but to play Grimes. Yeah, he likes Grimes and Grimes is his guy. And it's also because Grimes plays great defense. But because we
Hmm.
don't really have a solid replacement, Grimes is the guy.
Yeah, he's that guy.
Because
You
who else
know.
you want to put in?
Well,
And that's my
yeah.
point that the Knicks don't really have a really good team. Like I was listening to ESPN radio earlier and Don LaGreca, it was the Michael K show, and he was actually calling the Knicks game, which he doesn't really call many games, but he called the game because they played a clip when Hartenstein had made the dunk, so they played the overplay of him doing the commentation, and they were laughing at him
Hmm.
because he was like Hartenstein with the dunk. He was like after like three bounces from the floor, he was like coming off his
Damn.
tippy toes, right?
Gee.
But Don LaGreca was like, the Knicks have a really good team. And I was like, I'm in a car driving, like, no, they don't have a really good team. Like,
Yeah.
really so badly wanted to call. But of course, because it's football season, they don't talk about the Knicks very heavily. And that's not going to really start to after All Star break. They
Yeah,
don't
I
really talk
noticed that
about the
too.
Knicks that much because it's football season, and we just got out of baseball season. Now, once we
Hmm.
get to February, they're gonna be talking about the NBA a lot more. Anita
Yeah,
Marks and all
yeah,
these other sports analysts or whatever. But I remember I just thought to myself, I'm like, the Knicks don't have a really good team. I don't know where he's getting that from. They have a decent team.
yeah. It is decent for the most part, but you know, I think they're gonna definitely get better as the more games get under your belt. And again, that's what consistency, not and then the continuity will come.
Agreed.
That's my take on it. Others may differ, and guess what? You're entitled to it. My thing is, I would rather have consistency right now, because you playing with the same core group of guys, with the exception of DiVincenzo.
Exactly. That's the
Yeah,
only change that we've really had. And
yeah,
Michael K was saying, well, to me, the Knicks, they're good enough just to be a first round playoff team. And I'm like, but he's not really wrong because I think the Knicks have a lot to prove this season as far as the regular season and the postseason. Because you
hmm,
can't, the goal for me is like, you can't just make the playoffs and make the first round and get knocked out.
yeah,
You
for
got to get
sure.
past the first round. And you damn sure need to try to get out the second round, but you can't just make it to we've tried that already. And the fans have seen that. We're looking for you to go further than you did last year. And this is where I think it goes back to what you and I was saying about their placement and their standing throughout the regular season. You don't want to be the eighth, seventh, sixth seed. You
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
try to get to that fourth seed if you can, because it's a long season. Like you said, some teams
Hmm.
that may be third or fourth now may not be third or fourth come, March. So I think it's really up to the Knicks to really try to do everything in their power to try to really stay. I really would say don't even go really fifth is even stretching it. I would say try to be at nothing higher than the fourth,
Yeah, because right now in the conference, we're what, number
ninth.
nine? Yeah,
Yeah.
I
So we're
mean,
not even we're at 500, but we're not even in the play in.
yeah, yeah, we're not even a hunt. There's quite a few people that are higher than us. Nets, Hawks, Magic. So these are teams that we should be right now standing
Yep.
possibly five, six, the highest, but nine, that's we should be high. It's again, we know it's still early. There's a lot of
Right. Things could
basketball left,
change. Right. Absolutely.
but still, we should ninth. I mean, for what it's worth, that's kind of unacceptable. But we'll get there.
And I think that's the key. The Knicks have to get there because you don't want to dig yourselves in a hole as a team. And then
Hmm.
now it's February, and then you're like, oh, they in eighth. That's not acceptable to me.
Yeah,
You need to be at least in fifth, sixth. Don't
yeah.
give the fans anxiety, and then you over here, all high up, and
Hmm.
because you guys dug yourself in a hole, losing back to backs, or you won two, now you lost three. That
Yeah.
back and forth is not going to work either. So I think it's just staying consistent. I think that's going to be like my key word verb wording I'm gonna use for the Knicks is staying consistent.
Oh, for sure. I agree. Yeah, that's my mantra for them. Consistency. Um, and everything else will fall in place, once you get that. To me anyway, you know.
So what are your I know you said you wanted to talk about the Clippers
Yeah,
game.
just go over just something briefly. But what was your question?
No, I was gonna go into Charlotte, but go ahead.
No, no, because it's just, I mean, because it was such a great game, and we beat Harden, and not Harden, just the Clippers in general. It was just some takeaways that I saw briefly. I'm not going to
Mhm.
go into it. Um, some of my takeaways. One, the defense. That intensity was like man, out of this world. So it was a great
Agreed.
defensive effort. They had good shot selection. This is with the Clippers that we beat them. Um, you know, they shared the ball.
Yeah.
Again, this is just my takeaway. It was good transition. They capitalized off the turnovers for the Clippers. They got easy baskets, and they outscored the Clippers in the fourth quarter 34-21, which is, because we know sometimes they get those defensive collapse. So they held their own. The bench, huge contribution. And again, these are things that, you know, can carry over, help them
Mhm.
with the momentum. um so and again, it was a collective team effort for them, so that was just like my takeaway, for them. And there was some, those there was that was a pros. But as far as like, the cons, um some people said, they can't score, which they did. Um, there was, there's no chemistry, which I think they're getting that now.
Yeah.
Um, you know, Randall is a ball hogger. Again, these are things that was said prior to, with the Clippers coming into town. And again, I think they turned that corner. Um, no identity, which, yeah, I think they getting it now. And that's what I mentioned before. They didn't have like what how many games do you have to form together as a team before forge that identity?
Right.
I
Right.
think they finding it now. Um, so that was just, although Brunson couldn't get going offensively, he did make contribution in other ways. So I was just collectively a good game for them, and I think that helped carry over for the Spurs, and definitely hope that that can carry over for the Hornets. So I just had to just get that out the way.
No, I agree. I think well, Brunson, to me, he deserved a little break because when they played
Yeah, for
Milwaukee, he
sure.
played his butt off, dropping 45 points. And it happens. Sometimes guys are gonna be off. But I think the key takeaways from Monday night's game against the Clippers and then yesterday's game against the Spurs is that the Knicks also played a good second half, and especially in
Yeah.
the fourth quarter, which is key
Hmm.
because they can't allow themselves to get laxed and allow teams to climb back into the games. When you are up by, even if it's 15, 20, 25, 30 points, don't let off the pedal
Yeah.
and finish teams, because if they're up by that much, they're not going to let up off the Knicks. They're going to keep playing around and just be like, yo, we up. Now they got the B squad in. They just doing whatever they need to do to continue to grow that lead against the Knicks, and it just becomes an embarrassment.
Yeah.
So I think the Knicks did a great job on Monday and yesterday, keeping that lead in the fourth quarter,
Mhm.
not allowing the teams to climb back in and keeping the game playing smart, making smart decisions, continued moving the ball, and and continue to keep scoring and didn't settle for the three. When the Knicks don't settle for the three, they're a lot more successful. And
Yeah.
again, they just need to stick to that and keep doing that throughout the season because it will pay off. And don't do any ISO plays with the one-to-one
Yeah.
players, because when you do that, it wastes time. The shot clock is going down. Someone's bound to get the ball stolen from them. It just doesn't work in their favor. And also, guys just moving without the ball is key too. So, my key thing with the Knicks is to keep that momentum going into for
Mhm.
Sunday's game. Keep the momentum. And just because it's an early game, I don't care if it's an early game or a late game, you need to win the game.
Yeah.
Come in, you get a nice little break, but don't get too lax because you haven't been playing and you've only had to show up to
Mhm.
practice.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think that the Knicks definitely could beat Charlotte. They're a beatable team. They're one of the teams that the Knicks need to beat, with those teams like your Detroits, your Orlandos,
Mhm.
even to me, like Indiana's a team that you guys should be beating. I don't want us when we playing against Indiana, Obi having a whole fest of dunks
Oh
and doing
man.
whatever he want to do,
Yep.
so I don't know. Sunday's game, I think the Knicks are playing at 12. Oh, they're
One or
playing at
12.
1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, so it's gonna be a nice little early
No,
game,
12. You're right. 12.
12
Oh, that's an
o'clock.
early game. Wow.
Yeah, I know.
Mm. Yeah,
It's
12.
very early. Yeah, so I'm definitely looking forward to what the Knicks are gonna bring that game. I definitely want to see strong defense from the gate. From tip off, I want to see the defense locked in, guys crashing the boards, moving the ball around, hands in guys' faces, denying guys the ball. And then on the offense, I want to see ball movement. I want to see at least four different touches before we get a shot, and guys who don't have the ball to move. I noticed when guys are driving the lane, Mitch and Hartenstein sets a screen on that center who's standing on the defensive end. They set a screen so whoever's coming, they could have the easy lane and go
Yeah.
into the middle. I guess which kind of answers my question, how I would always say it seems like Hartenstein and Mitch are in the way when guys are driving. Even though I still feel like there could be a better way to go about that because I still feel like they're in the way when you have like your Randalls, Brunson, and Quickly or RJ when they're driving. I still feel like Mitch and Hartenstein are in the way. Like they're causing too much congestion in the paint when someone from the Knicks team is trying to drive. I don't know. Somehow they need to figure out how to roll off or move something because it's too much like it's like Times Square in the paint. And I'm like, it's just way too many people,
Mm.
including Knicks players. And I don't want to see them settling for the three. You got to guard the perimeter threes on the defensive end, because Charlotte is definitely going to shoot the threes. Ball is definitely going to look to get his. He's a great guy with passing and giving off, getting his assists up because he's going to look to pass and set guys up. But if you was able to guard Harden and make sure he didn't get away with murder, and the same thing with Sochan on the Spurs, and you guard Wemby, you could do the same thing against
Yeah.
Charlotte,
Yeah. You can. Yeah. I mean,
and it's
I
possible.
I agree with everything you said. You pretty much, summed it up for the most part, with Charlotte. And I mentioned before, they're another young team that like to run, get out in transition. So I mean, I, you know, whatever you did with the last two, with the Clippers and the Spurs, you just bring that same intensity and heat with Charlotte. You know, I agree for the most part.
Yeah, and it's very much possible. So the Knicks, definitely the goal is to make it three in a row this week. You have a tough schedule, but you can beat these teams. And I just say
Yeah,
take it game by game, and let the game come to you. And that especially applies to your RJs and Randall. Like, let the game come to you. I'm not so much worried about Quickly or Brunson because those guys, for the most part, they're going to find their shots. And if not, they're going to drive the lane. Um, so even Quickly looks like he's gotten a lot better at shooting the three, and his floater
yeah,
shot looks like a lot better where he's
yeah,
making them. So, and Quickly's just going to do what he needs to do because he knows teams are looking at him and they're going to be interested. So every game he's going to go off and do what he needs to do and put his best foot forward.
yeah.
So
It's
I just
crazy.
think, like you said, Charlotte is a young team, but
Hmm.
they're a beatable team. The Knicks have more experience and more talented guys. So you don't want to let that get away from you because sometimes when teams know they won two, three in a row, they trying to get you to lose that game when they playing against you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And they gotta realize after that Charlotte game, they go on the road for the
Yeah,
next four games. So no, but actually it's five. They got Boston Monday. They got Atlanta Wednesday. They play another in-season tournament, Washington, at Washington, and then Charlotte at Charlotte, and then
hmm,
they got Minnesota. So that's a 5 game road trip.
yeah,
This will definitely help them lock up, some games and again bring, some momentum and confidence, consistency. So that Charlotte game will definitely help, with that road trip.
agreed. Agreed. And I think that it's going to be key for the Knicks for those next week games, which we'll get into in our next episode. But it's going to be important for the Knicks to really lock in and be ready
Yeah.
for that road trip because those are tough
Hmm.
teams that you're going to be playing against. And, just making sure that you're not allowing teams to just run all over you or take advantage of you. Um, and to try to get out of those 5 games, even if the Knicks could win 3 of them, I would be
Yeah.
happy with 3.
Yeah. Same here.
But yeah, any other exactly any other takeaways for you before we get out of here?
Um, no, I again, what you said about the Charlotte game, just be locked in, for the most part. And and just be prepared for that road trip.
Exactly. So this would be a nice win for them to get. I'm hoping that the Knicks and very hopeful that the Knicks will get the win on Sunday. And then after that, the Knicks just got to be ready. Boston is beatable. You just can't let them do whatever they
Yeah.
want to do. And I think the Knicks should look at that game as a revenge game on Monday against Boston next week.
Yeah.
And be able to want to take them the next time we play them, even if it is in
Hmm.
their home. So if they beat you at your home, beat them at their home the next game. But as far as with Charlotte, beat them. You could take Lonzo Ball out of his game,
Yeah,
and they
for
don't
sure.
really have anybody on their team that's gonna make you. But sometimes those are the teams that the Knicks kind of get a little laxed, and they let guys come into the Garden and do whatever they want to do and score 50 points. How? So yeah, I'm looking forward to the game. We'll be coming through with some more coverage for the Charlotte game. And yeah, I'm excited. It's gonna be an early game, so we could definitely do. We'll probably come through with maybe a post game or
Yeah,
the day before a pregame, and yeah, we'll be coming through with some more heat.
for sure. Let's go Knicks.
Exactly. Let's go next. So yeah, until next time, as always, thank you for watching. We really appreciate it. Subscribe to our channel. We're gonna keep putting out great content and great videos. If this is your solid content and videos, we bring it straight, real, and raw. And we give our analysis of the Knicks game and the NBA in general, but predominantly all things New York Knicks. Leave us a comment. We love to hear you guys' takes on what you think. And then like this video. It helps us get on the algorithm. It helps other people to see our videos. And until next time, we out.
Peace.